This is TWiT.
Let's talk about the quality. Oh, Medium is down. Well, I'll have to talk to the author about what's wrong with tech journalism.
So there was, is it down? There was a very good paper that I saw presented at an academic conference in Medium. Yeah. No,
it came back up. Okay.
By Axel Bruns, who's an academic at the University of Queensland. And he pokes holes, rather considerable, gigantic wormhole holes, in the notions and metaphors of the, it's on Buzz Machine.
Okay. Your blog is never down.
Don't jinx me. In the idea of the filter bubble and the echo chamber. And does a very good literature read, going through all the literature that says, folks, it doesn't really exist, but these metaphors are being used, and the metaphors are not at all defined, so we don't have any mechanism to argue about it or measure it or understand what this impact is.
So define, before we go too much farther, what is commonly believed to be the echo chamber in the filter bubble?
They've become almost synonymous.
Eli Pariser used the term filter.
Eli Pariser argued that the filter bubble is that if you went into search and that you and I would get
because
searches.
Search is, and the way Google does it anyway, is modified based on your previous searches. You're going to tend to get, eventually over time, the same results.
That was the argument, though Axel Bruns points to research that says that wasn't the case, except for within a nation, you had similar search results. But you and I...
Maybe even within a zip code.
No.
It has to be as big as a nation.
Yeah, there you have different languages and so on, so you have different search. But in Google Search and Google News, this research showed, because it's actual research. So this set me on to an argument, and I'm a fake academic. I am no academic. I'm just a journalism teacher. But among the real academics who are doing the kind of papers that Stacey reads that really matter, there's a standard and discipline of evidence. And we don't have that in journalism. And I end up ranting about the quality of technology journalism. It went from full utopian to full dystopian. And things like echo chamber and filter bubble bubble up to become just presumed this exists, right, without any effort to even do a literature search and see what exists in the evidence. And then regulation and legislation is going to pop out of that. And we're just irresponsible in my field. So I complained about that. I thought I'd get a lot of crap from people like you, but so far I haven't. And I think we have a problem in the tech journalism world that we haven't really dealt with. But it's not just tech journalism. It's all of journalism. It's
humans.
We should be better.
That's because humans, need better journalism, of course.
No, it's okay. We have to. More data is always good, but the challenge with journalism, and you can call it a filter bubble, you can call it whatever you want, is we are writing stories for people. And people are story and narrative oriented. And Jeff, you have some academic book that talks about this.
Yes, how history gets things wrong, the neuroscience of our addiction to stories.
Yes,
Stacey, that doesn't mean the story has to be factless.
But journalists do look for facts. We just look for facts in the context in which we have today, which is driven by a narrative. I mean, how do you find your stories? I tell you how. I mean, I find my stories because people talk to me about things they've noticed.
But I know, Stacey, I know that you because you're a good journalist and responsible journalist, attempt to escape the confines of your preconceived notions when you're doing research for your stories.
And you have context.
I do, and that's...
You do it on the show, Stacey. You bring in context, as you just did to Leo 3 minutes ago. Yeah. So no, right. You're getting all that wrong because you have the experience and the context.
But here... And you're right. I've done this. This is why I talk to engineers more than I talk to people. That was wrong.
They're going to love hearing that construct.
Sorry, yeah. PR people is really like normal people who don't look at data, and that's why.
Keep digging, Stacey. Keep digging.
I am more like that than an actual person, I guess. Anyway, the point is, engineers are my people because we think alike. We think in data. But I will tell you, as a journalist, fewer people read my stories because I don't have the narrative and I'm not very good at it. And that is the challenge. And I always call it the dead baby lead because you lead with the dead baby to get your story, out there. And Sarah Kiff is actually really good at this. She does healthcare data, for example, but she will always, all of her stories are super immersed in data, but they don't always have an actual dead baby, but they have some sort of, usually it's a dying patient of some sort. But that type of journalism is really rare. It's really hard. It's really expensive. And people don't, and honestly, I don't think it actually drives page views, which is the advertising.
But let me argue with you, Stacey, because I think Leo's point is right. You're not giving yourself sufficient credit for the good job that you do in journalism. What I'm talking about here is that you come. I mean, look at the red wine will kill you, red wine will save you stories. Right? That's an example about how we just don't simply just understand and report on science the way it should be reported on. That there are strings of bits of research that test out various hypotheses and that add up to something, but the story doesn't add up to it. Or when there's this presumption that there's a filter bubble and it's never tested, that you do stories about, oh my God, we're all in a filter bubble. This is the roots of all of our problems in society right now. And then you have academic research at easy reach to just do a simple search to say, actually, no, the filter bubble's been debunked, but it's been debunked in a different world of the academe.
So I would say
that's the problem.
One, when people start talking about the filter bubble, we've been talking about the filter bubble before there was academic research about it. So people start estimating that this is out there. If you're actually at the cutting edge, people are estimating that these things happen, especially in the social sciences. And then the research comes out and either backs it up or doesn't back it up. So I think there's social science research is hard, and it's usually after the fact, after we've started writing articles about it. Empirical science that, you can measure, even that is called into question. So those red wine studies are difficult because you'll have an article or you'll have a study come out one year that says this, and then another one that says that. And I think another thing that's hard for journalists reporting on science is they don't understand science. They don't understand how studies should be written. And I think they don't understand the difference between a control group or maybe an overview study.
Which is my fault in journalism school that we don't teach them. Yeah, we got to do that. Let me give you a few facts from Bruns. Let me give you a few studies that say, right? So 2 studies looked at already divisive topics like abortion, vaccination, Obamacare, gun control, and found, of course, they're divisive online. Then they looked at other topics that people argue about, like Game of Thrones and food porn, and found that they didn't lead to polarization online. So is the problem that online creates the divisiveness, or that we just bring the divisiveness online? Another one, social media users, I'm quoting here, generally encounter a greater diversity of news sources than non-users do. So that's the echo chamber argument. Oh, no, we're just in our filter bubble. We don't know crap. Another one, those users frequenting the most extremely partisan conservative sites in the United States have been found also to be more likely than ordinary internet users to visit the New York Times. Another one, exposure to highly partisan political information, I'm again quoting, does not come at the expense of contact with other viewpoints. These are things that are not hard to find. And I will confess here that I'm very ashamed of myself that I never learned, no one ever taught me in journalism school, no one ever taught me in a newsroom ever to go and do a search of academic research to find out what facts were. And yeah, we didn't have Google Scholar before, and we didn't have JSTOR, we didn't have other things. But I'm saying now that the next time I see a journalist do the lazy filter bubble story, I'm on their rear end.
I have to say, though, there's 2 things at work here. First of all, the reason people believe in the filter bubble is because it makes sense to them.
Yes.
So it's and I think we do this all the time. We don't look for studies or facts. It just, that makes sense.
Same with the vaccination story.
It makes sense.
To some people, it makes sense.
Kind of makes sense. And then it's hard for a journalist because if you're constantly saying, well, wait a minute, but let's look at the facts. What makes sense to you is wrong. You end up sounding like, you're harping. I don't think you'll be a popular journalist for very long. And so this has to be done.
As Bernie Sanders would say.
Well, nobody likes Bernie either. That's a problem, and it's a problem. Journalists are, yes, of course, it's a higher calling and all that, but ultimately it's a business.
But that doesn't mean
profession,
that doesn't mean you then say you need to
build an audience, and if the audience gets angry because every time you come on, you say something that bursts their bubble.
So we should go with the falsity. Screw it.
Well,
no,
okay,
but you have to
I'm
do it carefully.
Here's an easier
And you can't do it
refutation for
every
you.
time. Okay.
As a journalist, as both a newsroom journalist who had only one story due every day. God, you remember being a daily journalist and people were like, that's so hard because you have to write a story every day.
Yeah, you could read the newspaper in the morning. It was amazing.
Oh, crazy. But now, and being a blogger who's had a story and even occasionally only having to do one story a week, which is crazy. Academic papers suck. They're hard to read. They're hard to understand. They're expensive to find and access, even with things like Google Scholar.
And you can even find studies that completely contradict one another almost every time.
Yes, of course.
Yes. And in the world of academia, it's hard to know who's legit and who isn't. So I have to quote academic sources every now and then for some of my articles. Mm-hmm. And if you get the wrong academic, everyone else in the academic circles are laughing at you, and they're like, and they'll come out of the woodworks. They're not just laughing at you. They're usually telling you what an idiot you are. And you also have to deal with people who think that their minor disagreements really matter, when to the bigger picture and world at large, you're like, it doesn't.
True that.
So, and that's asking a lot of someone who's not paid very much and who is also trying to juggle a lot of other things. But
as a journalism teacher, I think that
well, you should always hold the highest standard.
Yeah, you should.
And
I'm
realizing that I'm not, yes, the head of research at our school teaches this, but I haven't been teaching this, and I need to.
Yeah. No, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think you're right, but I think you also have to address the realpolitik of it all, which is you can't be the guy who's always bursting people's bubbles.
But you don't back up the bubble when the bubble is
Don't
BS.
back up the bubble.
Don't back up the bubble.
Don't back up the bubble.
That would be a show title, but we've far beat it.